Well, hello there. My name is Cheryl, CEO of LifeWorkz, founder of the 24hourwoman.com. Welcome to this webinar where we'll be having a chat around the theme of leading and managing millennials. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for taking time to join us on this webinar. You are at the right place if you are managing a group of individuals that are below the ages of 30, and you are certainly at the right place if you are managing individuals that across the whole spectrum of age groups. Because when you look at leading and managing millennials, we're not just talking about them specifically, we're also talking about the culture and the workplace that they are in. So welcome, and I am so excited that you're here because leading and managing millennials is going to be one of the critical skills that any manager, any leader would need to have, because the way to lead and manage them is going to be, well, if you have not experienced it yet, a little bit different from the generations before. And as we get started, I just want to highlight this is what we are going to be covering. We're going to look at why embracing this generation of employees will give you a competitive advantage. Then we're going to jump right into the 10 inexpensive and effective ways to attracting, retaining, engaging, and motivating high-performing Gen Y employees. These ways have been tested and proven by many of my clients, many of the leaders that I work with, and they have all come back to say, well, we don't do all 10, we do some of it, and at different points in time, we implement different of the 10 that's being shared to you today. And what their experience is that they have been able to have high-performing Generation Y employees. So mind you, it's not just about attracting and retaining them, but that they will be engaged and they will be high-performing Generation Y employees. Well, are you ready? Well, if you are, I hope you have turned off your mobile phones, anything that's distracting you for the next 45 minutes or so. Make sure you have your pen and paper with you, because we're going to be taking down notes as I share these 10 ways with you, and you're going to put them to play. As we get started, I thought one of the first things is let you know a little bit more about me. Some of you might already know my story. My corporate journey was really across different geographical locations in different industries, and really involved staff and line functions. So it gave me a very broad view of the organization. It gave me the chance to work intimately with different groups of people. And I've had the good fortune of spending a good 10 years in a healthcare setting that allows me specifically to be experimenting on different ways to attract, retain, and engage the different generations at work, the different cultural diverse group at work, the different genders at work. And that's what we specialize in LifeWorkz. We look at how we can have talent innovation to create a more contemporary workplace through engaging them through cultural, gender, generational diversity, through work-life strategies, and through grooming leaders to be more contemporary leaders. And that's the path that I've taken. And the one that set me off on this path is this lady called Dr. Jennifer Lee. She's reflected in the picture, and that's where we are celebrating her birthday. And one of the things that she asked me was, Cheryl, are you going to stay in healthcare for the rest of your life? At one of my performance reviews. And that's when I sat down and I thought about it, and my desire was, no, I want to be able to create more contemporary workplaces for the others around me. I want to create inspiring and empowering workplaces in partnership with organizations so that talent can thrive. And that's what I've embarked on for LifeWorkz while raising 3 young boys with my husband. I've also put together different type of materials, a book on work life. I'm also very passionate about different generations at work. My first encounter with generations at work was really in terms of when I was in retail. And we were looking at the markets for use, and we asked ourselves, who on earth is going to buy something like that? Well, we were wrong. The moment that it was made available, it was a sold out item. So my first perspective about the millennials was really about from a consumer perspective. And then as I joined the healthcare profession, it, I really got hands-on in terms of looking at what are the tools, what are the strategies, what needs to be in place to attract and retain my very young, healthcare providers that's coming in and retaining them and grooming them, and having actually a millennial, leadership pipelines to be able to talk about succession. On the other hand, I know that I need to value the very experienced healthcare providers I have, whether they are in nursing or in pharmaceutical or in my physician or my surgeons. And one of the biggest challenges was how to get them to work well together. And I'm sure that's one of the issues that you need to face with. How do you deal with multi-generational team dynamics? We'll talk a little bit about that because millennials do not work alone. They work in a context of other people, and that's one of the pieces too, the culture piece. The team that they work with is also a key factor in terms of attracting, retaining, engaging, and motivating Generation Y on the millennials network. Then for our work, we were recognized in the HRD Congress with one of the Excellence Awards, and we are probably the first in Asia to be offering navigating work life and leading work flex online, a very interactive training program online, because we believe as we empower organizations to create more contemporary and flexible workplaces, and as individuals take responsibility and accountability and take on the autonomy and empowerment, we will have a truly new workplace where all talents can thrive. As our work brings us from around the world, I am very blessed to work with people from around the world of different age groups, in different platforms, and whether it's a live event or otherwise an online event such as this on the webinars. I'm so glad that you are able to come and join us. And I'm going to right now, hop right in, into looking at why are we talking about the millennials right now. Having generations been always, part of who we are and where we have been or where we are going. Well, let me just give you some numbers in context. Generation Y, or the millennials born roughly between 1980s to early 2000s, are growing in numbers and, more importantly, are growing in influence in the workplace. This is also the generation that most likely will see the world very differently from the managers. And by 2025, more than 50% of the workforce will be Generation Y. So, take that in. By 2025, more than 50% of the workforce will be Generation Y. Let me just break that down a little in terms of different geographical areas. In the US, Gen Y makes up of more than 21% of the workforce and is rapidly increasing. In India, half the population is under the age of 25. Can you imagine that? That means that there's a lot of opportunity in India, but that also means there's a huge competition in terms of the corporate job and finding the right job fit to bring out the best talent in India for Gen Y. In China, Gen Y population makes up approximately 200 million people. And a note to take is that this generation in China adopt a very different attitude than the generations earlier. They are geared more towards fulfillment of personal goals, and they do hold aspiration of being their own bosses. The other main thing about them that's different for Gen Y in China is that they are spending a lot more than their previous generations. Well, in the UK, more than 20% of the adult population is Gen Y. So that's just to give you a few, that more and more Gen Y and millennials will come into the workplace, and there's already a huge crew change in the talent pool already on the way. And that's the reason why we need, as leaders, we need to really look at what are we doing to engage them and to inspire them and to bring them along in the journey with us. Because at the end of the day, our objective is that we want to see higher engagement. Why higher engagement? Because we know from studies that higher engagement brings you positive talent outcomes. It brings greater customer satisfaction through service, through innovation, through just engaging with the customer, and that has a direct impact to your bottom line. Is there any other reason? Well, if there's any other reason that you see, would be a reason that you won't be engaging with millennials, feel free to send me a message or just put it in the chat box if you want to. Love to hear from you. Right, as we get into this engagement and we want greater, interaction, motivating them, one of the key things we need to do is really realize that what we need is a different way a way for us to adapt to the different approach that would be most appropriate for Gen Y employees, the way that they take to their jobs, and develop ways of inspiring them that will, and I know that it's going to be very different from the older staff members in the way that they inspire. So are you ready with a pen and paper? Because I'm going to go right into number one. What's the first way? Realize that the millennials are growing up or grew up in a rapidly developing technology environment. It's a very fast-paced environment that if you look at the movies, a lot of it's action-based, very fast-paced kind of movies. So if you are still expecting them to have long attention span, well, that's going to be a challenge because their engagement and their attention span will be much, much shorter. So what does that mean? That means give them shorter and more frequent tasks. So our job as a leader is to take away barriers to enabling them to be successful. Give them shorter and more frequent tasks. If you have projects that's a little bit more long drawn, 6 months to a year, break that down into smaller, shorter, more frequent tasks, because then you get their attention. So number one, the first way to be able to have effective ways to engage with them and to be retaining them and motivating them is to give them shorter and more frequent tasks. The second is similar to what we have said in number one, is to reframe. Your job is to reframe from a very large piece to smaller milestones. If you have a 12-month work plan, break it down for them. And not just monthly, but into weekly and maybe on a daily basis. Just have a quick check-in with them. Help them reframe to smaller milestones. This gives you a chance to give them autonomy to work at the shorter and more frequent tasks that you've given them and ensure that they are successful in that so that they are engaged and they feel movement and they know that they have contributed positively to the larger piece of work at hand. Number three, at the heart of Generation Y or the millennials is that there is a belief that there should be more to life than just work. And there is. And I think that's something that all the generations at work needs to realize that yes, we all do have more than work in our lives. And that's healthy. But how do we make that happen? Gen Ys and the millennials, as we work with them and as we have feedback sessions with them and as we do surveys and studies with them, we realize that they don't mind working longer hours. Yes, I just said that. They don't mind working longer hours, but they want to make sure that their time is well used. So what are you making them do, for example? It's going to be a key piece. So flexible work life is to give them the flexibility to schedule to to decide when, where, and how their work gets done, give them autonomy, and I put there, yes, within reason, because many people say, oh, I can't just let them go chaos, and throw the rest of the team off balance. But really, it within reason, in as long as they contribute, in as long as they bring what they're supposed to contribute to the table, and the team dynamics, the team effectiveness is not being affected, why not? As leader, you may say, oh, that will add a lot more administrative work, blah, blah, blah. But what is your main role as a leader? To lead and manage your generations at work, to lead and manage your millennials, is to enable them to contribute positively and deliver high performance. It's not just to make it administratively easy, but you want the best in your team members and the best in terms of team effectiveness. Generation Y also believe that we should work smarter, not just harder. So if you are equating working harder means staying longer hours, yes, they do, if you allow them to work smarter and if you are allowing them to work on things that they feel are meaningful and that makes good use of their time. And that's one of the reasons why they might come up to you and say, why are we doing things this way? Because they want to work smarter, not just harder. And if you allow them to frame their performance based on the outcomes that you define, and what you do give them is that you give them a process as a guide, then they can thrive. So for your Gen Y and millennials, do exercise flexibility at work within reason. And some of this within reason, you need to ask and challenge yourself. Is it really can't be done, or is it within my own assumption and bias that it can't be done? Because this is the era where technology, globalization, team dynamics, availability of talent is going to require us to take a whole new way of leading and managing our generations at work. So we, at some point in time, as leaders, we need to be challenging the way we think through. And number 4, use their time very efficiently and leverage on the technology. I don't need to say more about this. Yes, there might be generations who say that I don't want to be, they don't want to be so active on social media. It doesn't mean that they don't want to leverage on technology to be more efficient in the use of their time. So if you give them a task, allow them to leverage on the technology that's possible for them to get their work done. Then they're working smarter, not just harder. Number 5, I love this one because it talks so much about who we want to be as an organization, who we want to be as a leader, but it's also about who they want to be as individuals. Right? The golden aspiration is all about how can we intertwine their aspiration with that of the organization and you as a leader. For any change or any engagement to happen, it has to happen between you, the millennial, and within the organization context. So woven aspiration is going to be a key piece. What do I mean by that? Woven aspiration is about weaving the fate or the destiny of the individual, yourself, and the organization. So one of the things that we have advocated people to perhaps keep an eye on is identify if there's a particular skill that the millennial or the Gen Y is great at. And see if there is an opportunity to develop on that, because it will also be beneficial to the organization. So there's a win on both sides. So as they develop and grow their skills, the organization also benefits from the whole development process that the young person is going through. It benefits both parties. Woven aspiration is also about looking at who do they desire to be, what role do they desire to be in the next phase. What has the organization's growth to offer? one of the very, very interesting ways some of our clients have taken that is that the leaders actually spend time to talk to the younger people. Just half an hour a week. And they split it into 3 segments of 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes, they allow the young person to articulate and talk about what they have contributed and where do they see themselves in the next couple of months or couple of weeks of that training. And then the leader then tells them what the organization has been doing over the last period of time since they last spoke and where is it heading for. In the last 10 minutes is really talking about, okay, so these are the 2 directions, yours and the organization's. What can we do together? How can we help one another to grow? And with that, as they grow in their own aspiration, in their own dreams, the roles, the organizations will also benefit from that growth. And as you have more and more that engagement, there is more trust and there is more interdependence. And that's where you build greater rapport and greater engagement. And it also allows them to have greater involvement and responsibility. That's the next point in terms of number 5. Allow them to be involved and give them the responsibility to grow where they said they want to grow. For example, we had this young person who came for an interview with the country head, and at the interview, the country head asked this young person and said, so where do you see yourself in 18 months? And the young person, without a blink of the eye, said, I hope to be the country head. So what the country head did was, he says, I admire the aspiration, and we'd be glad to be able to groom you if it's appropriate. Let me tell you what it takes to sit on the seat. And he actually spells it out, what is to be done, what kind of competency, what kind of experiences, and it allows the person to be involved in the process and take responsibility. So I'm telling you, if you want to be at this seat, these are the things that you need to work out. But we are here as an organization to support you in your growth and development. So that's about involvement and responsibility. Number 5, the other part is about leveraging on expectations. It's leveraging on their expectations. So learn what they want. What do they expect? Just like this country head did. And then set the context, because very often we hear that they dream big dreams. Yes, then the job of the leader is that those are great dreams, and this is the context. Bring them back to the context, and then again bring them back and into the process of involvement and responsibility, so that millennials feel the pace of growth, there's progress, there's movement, and that it is not a waste of their time and effort. So there you have it. Which of these first 5 would you use first? I'm not saying you should use all of them. You don't want to get indigestion and just throw everything out. But which of these first 5 would you use first? And then as you practice it, remember, these 5, I can share with you all the best practices, but it means nothing if it's just knowledge. So common sense, unless you put it in as common practice, then you will see the results. So which one of these 5 would you use first, so that it becomes the leadership practice for you? Again, feel free to send it in to me via your post, or in private, or in the public chat. I look forward to seeing what you have. Yeah, many of you say that probably one of the easiest is to reframe larger to smaller milestones, okay? Right, so one of the comments is, well, spending 30 minutes a week is a huge challenge, it's a huge investment. Not sure about that. Well, yes, it is certainly a huge investment, but think about it. What if you don't do that? Your opportunity to engage them, to get to know them, and bring them on board will be even slimmer. Imagine if you don't invest in this, what is the cost to you? in terms of, yes, recruiting once again, training once again, and one of the key things about leaders, you should also be thinking about your leadership pipeline. Are you keeping your Generation Y, your millennials, long enough to develop them as a potential for your leadership bench? Just throwing out there for you to think about. Let's move on, shall we? Number 6. Number 6 is all about progression. In Gen Y, very often, once again, seems to have a bad reputation about being loyal, right? That they move about between jobs or between companies more often. And the key word here is more often than the other generations. Therefore, we feel that they are not as loyal. But what exactly are they looking for? They're basically looking for job satisfaction, right? They're happy with the job. And what makes them happy with the job? We went through it a bit earlier, giving things that for them to do that's meaningful, giving them things that they do that they feel is efficient use of their time, efficient use of their time, and allowing them to work smarter, not harder, and giving them that flexibility. And the other key thing is also giving them ways of seeing that they are making progress. So ways of progressing is important. It's not just about the vertical, promotional progression, but also the lateral, the amount of exposure you can give them, the amount of learning they give them, the different variety of people that they work with, a variety of different projects that they can be on. So and that comes hand in hand with their desire for learning and development and meeting their career aspiration. Talk to them about their career aspiration and then how that might line up to benefit the organization too. And you can do this even for your learning and development or ways of progress. As you give them those small and frequent tasks, attach some goals to them, attach some challenge to them, so that there is that level of movement, that progress that is different. In number 7, we're talking about the leader investing, again, to learn about their employees as individuals, as this will strengthen the bond with them as individuals and with the leaders. So one of the cases, as I mentioned, is a 10 by 10 by 10, but the other is also to just be able to find out, what's unique about each of the team members. What's unique about this team member and how you can lead them. Because once you know who they are and what they are about, you are able then to adapt, to find the points of motivation to lead each one of them. Yes, recognition is important. They like to be seen as an individual deserving of the attention that's specific to them because of what they have contributed. And again, they recognize them in the way that they feel recognized. Recognize in a way that will touch their hearts and not just a sweeping statement, for example. Be very specific about what you are recognizing them for, because that indicates to them that you know what they're doing, who they are about. In number 8, this should not be a surprise to you. Feedback is important for them. Feedback is vital for directing the Generation Y for development, and and having the various ways that this can take place, where you can have frequent review meetings. And what do you talk about? You can give them comments of where they are, what's their progress, can review their last project, and there are also opportunities that you can be suggesting them different ways of growth, different things that they should be involved in or consider. Especially if you were to focus and frame these review meetings focusing on the goals of progression, which is important for them because it sends a couple of signals that you know what they are concerned about in terms of their progression. You are able to show them the way and show them the things that they need to be doing or be experiencing to have that progress. One of the most frequent feedback I have about this is about, wow, they are so needy, for the other people, I don't need to spend this kind of time with them. But this is about a different way of engaging them. This is about how you can actually help them to progress. And it also shows you that, yeah, for some of you may feel that this is so fussy and overcomplicated. But keep in mind that they are going to be the largest and most rapidly growing demographic within the workforce. And therefore, we do need to pay more attention to the peculiarities of the millennials, and taking extra 1 minute or two, one-on-one meetings and giving them feedback, etc., is something that's important because it allows you to create a rapport, and it also allows you to look at ways to create a healthy working environment for them. I love this one because when we started talking about number 9 in terms of one size fits all approach, we used to talk about, no one size fits all across the different generations. And that's true. But what is even more true right now is that we find within the millennials, not one size fits all. Right? And that is why, as I mentioned in the earlier point, that flexibility is going to be key. Not one size fits all is also because there's increasingly going to be a blur between the professional and non-professional lives of your millennials. And for them, work and life plays together, and flexibility is going to be a key piece. And this will allow you to create opportunities. For example, for one Gen Y staff to work early and they go to the gym during lunch, while another may want to do standard hours, but in the middle, take a couple of hours off to pursue a personal passion. And another might choose to work from home, for that matter. The style that millennials favor will differ vastly between individuals. Not all of us are good in appreciating, all these blurred, so-called gray areas between professional and personal life, but it does allow the millennial to find and to create an atmosphere that they can thrive, and that's the most important thing. It boils down to how do you manage performance. If you're managing performance by outcomes and giving them just the goal, just the guidelines to work on, and allow them to create their own work ability, work pace, as long as they deliver, that's going to be one of the key skills that we need to develop as a leader. In number 10, yes, we are at number 10. We need to give and create the right amount of structure. Giving them sufficient information and the conversation around the goals, but also be able to create checkpoints. So going back again to number 1, which is talking about shorter and more frequent tasks, right? So as we find out more about them, we realize that they like very much more to be coached than managed. It's very different, they coach, we stand by and we cheer them on, we coach them, we identify what skills, what kind of practices that they need, rather than manage, which is just like a checklist, have you done this, have you done that, have you done that, and looking over their shoulders. Give them the autonomy and the bandwidth, give them the goals, give them the parameters of play, and let them play within that. And because that will allow them to create that freedom and flexibility that they are looking for. And with the freedom and flexibility, we are basically demonstrating the value of being open-minded. They love to have value, they love to have employees who value open-mindedness, who's open to discussion as to when, where, and how work is done, get their input and things like that. So that's something that we should consider and have them create that environment together with us. So number 10 is coach them versus managing them, and thrive on creating an environment of freedom and flexibility. One of the, again, so which one of these 5 would you use first? Okay, so there are 10 altogether. You don't have to use all at the same time. I'm suggesting use 1 or 2 and make those your practice. Make that your contemporary leader practice instead of just having it in your head to say, oh yeah, that's something that is great to do, but it doesn't translate to action. Right? That's one of my favorite quotes of being a contemporary leader, and that is taken from Bruce from Reframe. Is that we are all moving into the workplace of the future together. And that's something that we talk about. It's not just about the millennials, but about all your other talent pools that's coming and working together. It's about competing for the best people. And the world is getting flatter so that we do have access to talent from very different places, traditional and non-traditional sources. And the best people are thinking about their work lives in a whole new way. And I'm sure you have already experienced that employers have to lose their attachment to the old-fashioned career path. It's no longer about career path. It's about when and how we can give our best at different levels, at different times in our life stage, different career stages. And we can all learn from the emerging workforce and generation. Lots of things that we can learn from Gen Y and millennials because it's rewiring the way that we work, the culture that we have created over time that we are working in for all to thrive and be successful. My favorite is that I believe that there are gems in every generation. And our job as leaders is to uncover and to harness them. So uncover them, right? And we uncover it through conversation, through observation, and through feedback and reviews. And to harness them, we coach them, we give them the experiences, we give them the exposure, and then we let them demonstrate and play back. I love it that we are able to find the gems in our generations and uncover them and just let them shine. So are you ready to step up to your game as a leader of this group of individuals that are coming into the workplace? You are, if you're realizing that you need to find a better way to attract, retain, and engage your millennials. You probably are also if you realize that there's so much potential within you as a forward-looking leader. Yes, it's frustrating, it's scary, and sometimes you wonder if it is worth it, but you are looking forward to the engagement with the different generations at work. You probably are also looking at support. Many times our workplace, if we were to breed all the negativity, the leaders will need to look outward for support for like-minded leaders so that we can progress together. And then I'll say, that's great, step up on your game. The worst thing that you can do, okay, don't delay. Don't delay stepping up on the game because this big crew shift, this big crew change has already commenced. Right? So don't even wait for you to say, oh, help me, let me understand my team first. Get on with the talent innovation that's happening. You may feel the fear because you say, I've never managed like that before. I don't know how to manage this group. But a contemporary leader needs to lead the way. Yes, there might be some things you need to experiment with, but common sense only makes good if it becomes a common practice. Do ask yourself what you need to do to attract, retain, and engage your millennials at work. And ask yourself, are you committed to become an effective multi-generational manager, leader? And if your answers are yes, then get some coaching or training, because with this group, if you are able to engage them in the right way, you get higher productivity, innovation, engagement, and performance. Not just from them, but from the rest of your team members. So if you want a better way to engage your millennials and you want to explore proven ways to leverage your generations at work, these are what wise companies are doing. They are choosing to embrace Generation Y employees today because this will help them position themselves well in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous economy. Are you ready? Because this means that you need to rethink in terms of the culture that you're creating on your team, in your organization. It also needs you to rethink in terms of your team dynamics across the different generations on your team. And if you are, let me extend an invitation for you to join me for this one-day interactive workshop called Optimizing Generations at Work. The registration link is there. It's bit.ly/multi-generations. And this is what I will be covering in that one day. We'll look at why we are looking at that of optimizing generations at work right now. How does Gen X and Y play a role? Recognize what is the revolution going across the different demographic pools. What are we really that different, or are there similarities that we can leverage on? What are some of the strategies about a diverse generation workplace, a diverse generation workforce? What are the motivations and work expectations, particularly of your generation X and Y? And more importantly, to put practical levers to work for you in your context. So it's not going to be a general thing that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to share best practices. I'm going to share case studies. I'm going to share stories of individuals and companies that we have worked with that has been successful in optimizing their generations and work, in engaging their Gen Y and millennials. But it's also a time for you to design your strategy and your common practice to make it successful for you. These are just two pieces of comment that we have put out from the thousands of people that we have worked with, leaders, managers, around optimizing generations at work, around engaging Gen Y and the millennials, and engaging baby boomers and X's. And those are two. One is we present very concise information and a very practical approach that you can implement immediately. The other is that the data that we show, the approach that we would be advocating, and that the tools and techniques that we teach you will have definite relevance and need, because we are always working with managers and leaders on engaging their different generations at work. So we know what works, what doesn't, and what are the different contexts that leaders are working with. That if you are interested, this is where it is again. And because you're on this call, you get the heads up. I'm offering this one-day interactive workshop, Optimizing Generations at Work. This is the registration link, bit.ly/multi-generations. And if you fall within the early bird range, you get more than 30% savings on registration. And we believe that we want more leaders to come on board, because this is one trend of demographic shift that you will not be able to escape. Therefore, if you come on in early, you will enjoy more than 30% of savings. And in addition, there's more, yes. If you are the first 10 to complete your registration, you'll receive a complimentary Managing Demographic Risk video training series and workbook valued at $97. And this has been one of our very popular online programs. But we want to make it available for the first 10 that takes action. For the first 10 that will take action and go to their managers or learning and development department and say, I want to go for this, sign me up right now. Because you will get, if you get in, the early bird ticket slots, and at the same time, the first 10 will get the complimentary Managing Demographic Risk videos. It's going to be fun. I mean, you have seen the pictures of the groups that we have worked with. It's going to be fun because it is a different way of looking at our workplace and our workforce. and finding ways to engage them so that they thrive. And you as a leader will also be recognized because you are going to be one of the few unique ones that's going to be able to create a contemporary workplace where your across gender, generations, cultures will be able to thrive. That's what I have for this particular webinar. I look forward to seeing you at the workshop. Again, that's the registration link. Until we meet again next, this is Cheryl Liew-Chng of LifeWorkz, founder of the 24hourwoman.com. Have a great day ahead and see you soon.